guys, I am ARK. In this video, we will try to understand some buzzwords which are usually used with languages while introducing the language, like strongly typed, weakly typed, statically typed, dynamically typed, compiled, interpreted, and all those. We will try to understand these from a very basic perspective. And let's get started. So let's have a look at some basics. The source code which we write is not understandable by the computer. Computer only understands binary language, that is 0101. The instructions which we give to computer through our source code needs to be first translated in a computer understandable language in order for computer to execute them. Translation can be performed either before the execution, means either before the computer executes it, that is on compile time, or on the fly during the execution, means while the computer is executing our instructions. Runtime is the period when the computer is working on our instructions, that is when the computer is executing our commands. The source code is said to be compiled when the source code is translated before the execution. Means when we present the already translated code before the computer in order for it to be executed. The code is said to be interpreted if it is executed on the runtime. That means the source code is translated when the computer has already started executing our program. And compilers and interpreters are the intermediate programs used to perform this translation from the programming language to machine language, that is 01. I'm not gonna get any deeper into compilers and interpreters and the working of them because I don't see any need of it. Let's directly head towards the typing. Here typing is not referred to pressing the keys of the keyboard. Here typing is known as the process of assigning some data types. As we know that computer performs some operations on some data. It is important to know that the data is of a particular type. So the process of verifying the types of that data and enforcing constraints on that type, the limitations, like an integer can be added to an integer, those type of constraints, this is known as typing or type checking. This is done to minimize the possibility of type errors. Like for example, we don't want our program to be in a situation where we are adding an integer, that is a number, to a string, that is a word. Typing or type checking can be done either on the execution time or on the compile time. And there are four really important terms associated with typing, that is static or dynamic typing. When the typing is done during the compile time, that is before the execution, then the typing is known as static typing, and the language is known as statically typed language. Or if it is done during the runtime, that is during the execution, the typing is known as dynamic typing, and the language is said to be dynamically typed. And strongly and weakly typed based on how strongly a language wants its rules to be specified. We will see these terms in detail in the coming slides. So let's see what is statically typed language. If the data type of a variable is known at compile time instead of runtime, then that language is known as statically typed language. The statically typed language requires you to declare the data type of your variables in your source code before you use them. So the examples for statically typed languages are Java, C, and C++. And the language is said to be dynamically typed when the types are checked during runtime. That means it doesn't require you to declare the data types before you use them, before you use the variable. The example for dynamically typed languages are Python, JavaScript. In strongly typed languages, variables are strongly bound to the data types. That means if you perform an operation on two variables of different data types, it will result in an error. That is, there is no chance of implicit type conversion. This is applicable both to statically and dynamically typed languages. And the example for strongly typed languages are Python and Java. And weakly typed languages are exactly opposite of strongly typed languages. That is, in weakly typed languages, variables are not so strongly bound to the data types. In weakly typed languages, variables do have a type, but the safety constraints are much lower when compared to strongly typed languages. This is applicable for both statically and dynamically typed languages. And the example for weakly typed languages are PHP and JavaScript. and almost all languages has to fall in one of these four quadrants, where one axis has strongly and weakly typed languages and another axis has dynamically and statically typed languages. So we can see here that Python and Ruby are dynamic and strongly typed languages, and whereas Java, C sharp, F sharp are static and strongly typed languages. And on the other hand, JavaScript, PHP, and VB strict script are dynamic but weakly typed languages, and C and C++ are static but weakly typed languages. So that is it for the video, guys. Hope you find it helpful and you will be able to choose your language wisely based on these terms. Inshallah, we will directly start understanding the concepts of programming from our next video of this playlist. You can watch our web design playlist if you are interested in HTML and the front end part, or else you can stay tuned for the next video. I'll see you in the next one.